Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Songbird's Nest. My name is Margaret, and I'd like to welcome you in on this cold, cold morning. I guess my computer was feeling cold today, too. So, how is everybody? Good morning, Sam. Good morning, Kim's Crafts. Good morning, Kim at Fortunate Creations. Good morning, my twin, Marianne. Good morning, Julianne. How is everybody? So when I got up this morning, it was 1 below 0. All right. So yeah, it was super cold. Even Icy didn't want to go spend time outside today. I'm not sure if it's the coldest actual temp that we've had this year so far, but, well, probably the coldest this year so far. But I don't know if it's the coldest we've had this winter, but it's definitely cold. So, yeah. I'm going to try moving this light somewhere else because it seems like all my light is coming in from the window, and my ring light really isn't doing. There we go. Now it's brighter. Ugh. What is my computer doing? Making noises. Yeah, so even YouTube must have been cold this morning. It didn't want to act right at all. I had to try about 5 different times before it would even let me put my live in the system. And then, as you saw, it was just sitting there spinning when I was actually trying to go live. So, yeah, go figure. So, here we are. What is everybody? Oh, thank you, Julianne. This is one I made. It's actually like a sweater dress. It comes down longer than knee length. And I like wearing it with leggings. Today I'm just wearing it over a pair of sweats because it's darn cold. And I'm sitting right next to a window that kind of doesn't really have a draft coming in, but it kind of radiates cold air into my space. So sitting next to this window is a little chilly. Good morning, Beth. Nice to see you. Tank, take your time. We are here when you get here. Breathing is important, so please do your breathing treatment. Good morning, Michael. Welcome in. It's great to see you. Yeah, so this is just a real simple V-stitch sweater, and I like fitted sleeves, so when I made it, I decreased the sleeves down to where they weren't real huge at the bottom. I don't like to make a sleeve ribbing and have it real puffy at my wrist, so I always try to decrease my sleeves down to just about a little bigger than my arm measurement at the bottom so that they're not huge and puffy. Good morning, Grammy Rita. How are you this morning? So, I sure do hope that everybody is keeping warm and has a nice warm drink to enjoy this morning. I went and warmed up my coffee a little more just before I came on the live. I was down to about half a cup, so I just kind of refilled my cup and warmed my coffee up. So, you guys, I've been working really hard on my Stitcherhood blanket. I'm at about, I must be 30 inches into it at this point, and I think it's 30, 30 by 80 something, maybe close to 90. Good morning, Renee. Good to see you. So yeah, it's I'm going to be real proud of it when it's done. I got the rest of my yarn yesterday for my next Stitcherhood blanket. And the other night, I was kind of messing around. I was taking a break from the current Stitcherhood blanket because I had been crocheting a lot and my arm and shoulder was really sore. My left shoulder had gotten super sore. Um, it was really hurting to move. So I was taking a break from the heavy crochet stuff and just kind of messing around with some stitch ideas, stitch combination ideas, and swatching. And I came up with the coolest variation on the trio stitch. So, one of my blankets that I do is going to be a variation on this trio stitch that I figured out. And when I do that, I will do a tutorial for you guys so you can see it, because it's really fun. So be watching for that. I also am thinking about doing some morning lives, maybe during the week. Probably schedule them like after Amber's lives in the morning. And I may just do them more like the format where, like Camille does, where it's more of a watch me crochet type format. So you won't get to see my lovely face. You'll just be more seeing me crochet. And of course, I'll be here to chat with you. So yeah, so that's kind of something I've got planned soon. And then I am working on my room. I'm trying to get all my musical instruments out and make space to where I can change my bedroom around the way that I want it. And I am thinking once I do that, I may do some pajama party lives and live stream from the bedroom. And maybe I'll be even sitting in my bed. Who knows? I crochet a lot in my bedroom. Um, I have different projects for depending on where I'm at in the house. So, like out here when I'm doing the lives, I have this that I work on, my Mobius wrap. In my bedroom, I have my Stitcherhood blanket and my trio blanket, which has gotten so huge now that it's really hard to move it around. So having it up on the bed is kind of nice because it makes it easier for me to lift it up and turn it when I have to turn my rows. So, yeah. And I did get my Spider Dream tunic done. I'm really happy with that. Um, I did take some pictures, kind of some selfies in the mirror of me wearing it, but I'd kind of like to get my hubby to help me um, do a video wearing it and put a short up to show it off because I was very happy with the way it turned out. It turned out really cute, and I figured out a way to put sleeves on it. So I put kind of a short sleeve on it, and I flared out the bottom of the sleeve with the same stitch pattern that is at the bottom of the body of the tunic. So, yeah, I think it turned out cool. I was talking to Grammy D last night, Dawn. She is down in the Myrtle Beach area by my dad, near where my dad lives. And at the time that I talked to her, they only had an inch of snow on the ground, but she said it was still snowing and probably would be through the night. So I will be interested to see how much snow they end up with down there. Um, I did talk to my dad for a little bit yesterday. My brother had called me the other day and let me know that my dad wasn't feeling real well. So um, I talked to him, and yeah, he indeed was not feeling well. And so I told him, well, it's a good time to be sick because you don't want to go out anyway. So, I mean, he's a damn Yankee, so he can drive in it, but the problem being other people down there don't know how to drive in it. So he's better off just staying home and keeping warm and getting over being sick. So, and as usual, when I talk to him, um, our our thoughts turn to food. We always seem to end up talking food. Um, my dad is a fabulous cook. Um, in fact, truth be told, I think he was always a better cook than my mom. Um, he's Mom was great when it came to the down home, stick to your ribs, country type cooking because she grew up on a farm and they cooked for the farm hands. So she always cooked large quantities and um, she she did the good stick to your rib country style cooking. So, chicken and dumplings, beans, um, just, just simple stuff. She could cook quite well the fancier stuff, but my dad excelled at it. Um, so whenever I go to my dad's house, it's always a treat because he will get in and start working his magic in the kitchen, and we always have really good food at my dad's house. So he was talking about recipe that he had found for a um, for what's called coq au vin blanc. Coq au vin typically is made with red wine, so it ends up being more of a, a reddish sauce. But apparently, this you use white wine instead, and it turns out to be more of a white sauce on it. And he said he had some, it's made with chicken, of course. And he said he had some chicken meatballs in his freezer, and he figured he could cut the recipe down enough to make just, enough for him to eat a couple meals of it, to where he doesn't have to get sick of it. And he would just throw some of the meatballs in, and it would be enough for him. Yeah, your dad is 70 today, Frizzy, and that just lets me know how young you are. um, yeah, we are planning to go to Myrtle Beach for my dad's birthday. He will be 86 this year. So he was talking about how many recipes he has saved on his computer because he's subscribed to the New York Times foods section, and he gets a lot of really good ideas from the recipes he finds there. And he said he has probably about 9,700 recipes saved on his computer. And I told him, I said, well, looks like you're going to be around for a while if you plan on cooking all those. He said, yeah, looks like I got to stay alive, huh? So yeah, if he's gonna cook all those recipes, he's gonna be around a while. I have a sneaking suspicion he probably will be around a while anyway. Um, he does pretty well for his age. I think he's still driving. He still drives quite well. Um, he's had some eye surgery so that he can see well, and he does have diabetes, so he kind of watches his diet, but he's pretty healthy otherwise. Um, he did he did fall the other day. He told me he's been trying to get the his condo cleaned up, and he said he was packing up stuff that he didn't feel like he needed anymore. He was packing up into boxes. And when us kids come down to visit, we get to go through boxes and take what we want. And he said, whatever we don't want, we'll end up just going to Goodwill. Okay, I have a feeling we will probably have a really full car when we come home. The main thing I want is the stained glass tools that I know he's got. He had mentioned those to me a while back. And I am hoping that I can get my husband interested in doing some stained glass, and that way he will have a hobby. So, yeah, Tank, I'm glad it stopped snowing for you too. I was watching the storm chasers last night for a while. They were out on the Outer Banks, and it was pretty wild over there. They weren't at the beginning of the live stream, they weren't getting a lot of snow over there, but the wind coming in off the ocean was just fierce. I mean, it was unbelievable. Um, they got off of the off of Highway 12, which runs down the length of the Outer Banks. They got off there just in time. They were closing that road. There was so much sand blowing across the road that it was going to be not too long and it'd be pretty much impassable. So anybody who didn't leave from the Outer Banks last night is pretty much going to be stuck there until they get it cleared back out. Yes, brutal winds. I definitely can agree with that. We had pretty brutal winds when we had the snowstorm here. The last one we had some, I mean, snow was literally coming horizontally. So I know what you mean by brutal winds. But yeah, Tank, I'm glad it stopped snowing for you too. Um, it was kind of funny. My hubby looked outside yesterday morning, came back in and asked me, he said, "Do you know who shoveled our sidewalk?" It's like, "No." He said, "You didn't hear anything?" I was like, "No." Of course, they may have done it while I was still sleeping, trying to get rid of the headache I had. So I called my neighbor, and she said, "Somebody cleared my sidewalk this morning. Was that you guys?" And I said, "No." My hubby wanted to know who had done it. I said, "I have a sneaking suspicion it was our neighbor here on the corner." They're new neighbors, pretty much. They've only been there a few months. And so I'm betting that it was him. We have 2 degrees. It actually went up a little bit. So the last time I looked, it was 2 degrees and feels like 2 degrees. So we obviously have no wind, which is nice when it's that cold. To not have any wind is a good thing. Renee, I would take some warm weather. It's actually supposed to get 20 up to 25 today, which after what it's been, 25 is going to feel really warm. So, it's pouring there right now. Yeah. Well, considering where you're at, that's probably not too surprising. I think Washington State gets a lot of that, which is why Washington State has the rainforest. Yeah, Michael, that is hard to deal with. Your body doesn't quite know how to regulate when you have a day of 25 and then a day of 70. It's, yeah, makes it difficult. 77 today. Ah, Renee, you're so lucky. Yeah, our high is 25 today and I think 28 tomorrow. So we're getting back to being above freezing. Hopefully soon. I need to sit down and get on my seed company's website and figure out what I want to plant this year for my garden. So I need to figure out what kinds of tomatoes I want to do this year. I'll be interested to see how many of my tomatoes come up wild again this year. Last year I only planted 3 different kinds of tomatoes, but I ended up with 5 different kinds of tomatoes just from the tomatoes that came up on their own from previous years. So it will be interesting to see what happens this year. I literally had tomatoes growing all over my yard because um, the birds would get any of the tomato plants, any of the tomatoes that I didn't pick, the birds were getting. And so we had seed scattered all over the yard. And so yeah, I had lots of volunteer tomato plants, Michael. I had just on I have a fence down one side of my garden, and so I planted some tomatoes in the fabric pots. I planted a bunch of my volunteer tomatoes along there, and I had 6 plants along there. Then I had another plant over by my herb garden, and no, another 2 plants by my herb garden. Then I had a cherry tomato plant that was a volunteer that was down a little beyond the herb garden. And I had some volunteer cherry tomatoes come up in my little garden spot that's at the end of my porch, um, which I eventually moved. Then a few years ago, I planted something called spoon tomatoes, which are, I don't know if you guys know what currants are, but they're an itty bitty little berry. Well, these spoon tomatoes are about the size of currants. They are tiny. I would say they're maybe about the size of between a 4 millimeter and an 8 millimeter bead. That's about what size they get to. And they're pretty good, but you have to pick a whole lot of them to get anything out of them. They're great in salads, because you can throw a handful in your salad and have enough tomatoes in your salad. But yeah, they're just tiny, tiny little things, and they grow wild like crazy. So the last couple of years, I have tried to get rid of them because they vine all over the place, and I just really don't like them well enough that I want to keep them in the garden. So yeah, I'll see how many come up this year and that I have to get rid of. But yeah, Michael, I decided to cut back a little bit on what I'm growing also. Um, I'm thinking probably tomatoes and peppers. And I grew Swiss chard last year that did really, really well. It actually lasted up past the first frost. Yeah, I will definitely be doing cucumbers because I grow cucumbers on a trellis. So I'll be doing the cucumbers on the trellis again. And there's a kind of cucumber I like to grow called Bait Alpha, which is a cucumber that does not need to have the male and female flowers to pollinate. So it will pretty much grow fruit, whatever. But it doesn't grow real big ones. So, like the mini cucumbers you see at the store, that's about what the bait alpha get like. I like growing those for icy. Um, I've grown them a couple of years now, and icy, when they get the fruit on, I will go pick a cucumber off and give it to Icy because he just loves cucumbers. And so that's his big thing in the summertime is to get fresh cucumbers off the vine. Well, he figured out where his cucumber vine was, and he would go pick his own cucumber. The bad thing about it was he also figured out where the big cucumber vine was, and he would go pick those cucumbers too. So, yeah, I have to really watch him when he's outside because he will eat all the cucumbers. But yeah, it's really cute. He's almost like a dog with a bone. Well, he's kind of like that with his cucumbers. He will get one and carry it around with him and chew on it for hours. So it's pretty funny. Yeah, I will probably plant. I've got my herb garden. That's got its own spot, so it never changes. Um, I've got in my herb garden, I've got sage, oregano, fennel, thyme, and lemon balm, which has tried to take over the world. Um, I usually have to replant my basil every year because it kind of dies back too much in the fall. Yeah, Michael, I usually I freeze a lot of cucumbers or not cucumbers, tomatoes so that I can make sauces throughout the year. Um, I've got a small freezer. It's perfect for the two of us. And so I will throw gallon bags of tomatoes in there. And I even use like some of my cherry tomatoes, I end up using to make sauce or soup with. So, yeah. It's kind of funny because I've grown the paste tomatoes, like the Amish paste and Romas and some of those, and just don't do as well here as a lot of the other tomato types that are out there. So I've kind of stopped trying to grow the Romas or the paste tomatoes, and I just use whatever tomatoes I get. I use to make paste or sauces or whatever with. So yeah, dehydrating them. My air fryer actually has a dehydrate setting, so I can dehydrate vegetables if I want to. And I have done tomatoes. I like dehydrating them to the point that they're almost um, like a sun-dried tomato consistency. I like those real well. I have not tried to grow spaghetti squash. I'm betting that I could. Um, Squash does pretty well here. I have grown butternut and acorn squash in the garden. And then on the outskirts of the garden, I will usually do my zucchini and summer squash. And they they always do well. So, needless to say, of course, I will be having some of those this year. I have a spot out here beside the house where I had tulips and hyacinths planted. Well, my tulips have stopped blooming. The bulbs don't last very long, and they just they sprout leaves and don't do anything. The hyacinths still bloom, but by the time the hyacinths are done, then that's just a bare spot over there. So I'm thinking what I will do is once my hyacinths are done blooming, I will plant that area in with my summer squashes and then grow some of the vining squashes in the garden. Um, and I have grown my vining squashes up trellises. Um, I grew acorn squash up a trellis a couple of years ago, and they did really, really well. So, yeah, I may go ahead and do trellises for my squash again. Oh, peppers dehydrated to a point where you can powder them. Yeah. Now, when I grow cayenne peppers a lot, or I will grow Thai peppers, Thai hot peppers. I usually will string them and dry them and crush them up to use. We really like those. Of course, I have to keep my hubby away from the hot peppers because he will use up every hot pepper in the house to make harissa for his food. Harissa is a North African condiment, and they use it kind of like Americans use ketchup. They use harissa over there. So he likes hot pepper sauce on everything. Which I have found when we have harissa in the house, if I cook something Italian, say, and I'm making a tomato sauce, I have put a couple of spoons of hot peppers or a couple of spoons of the harissa into my sauce, and it actually is pretty nice. It really makes it very lively. Um, I do cook with a lot of cayenne pepper. Um, so, well, Tank, it probably has varying degrees of heat. What he makes is usually not so hot that you would die. Um, but yeah, you don't cook anymore? Well, hey, Renee, if you don't have to, I don't blame you. Believe me, there are days that I wish I could get away with not cooking anymore. I sometimes get really tired of it. That's usually when I go to the store and get something really quick, pick up fried chicken, or order something in. The other night I ordered in fajitas for our supper. Um, and I actually ended up having it for supper and then again for brunch yesterday. So that worked real well. Okra is one thing that I have never developed a love for. Um, I would love to try mushrooms, Michael. I have a spot down the side of my garage. Um, I did have it fenced off to where it really wasn't accessible, but my hubby decided to take the fence that was at the corner of the garage and move it down to where the fence, because our neighbor fenced on down a little further down the side, kind of more toward their garage. So um, he moved the narrow piece of fence down to the end of where their fencing is and put it up there. And so it gives me probably about a 10-foot by 4-foot space that would be probably ideal for growing mushrooms. I mean, it's not a spot that gets real bright sun. Um, so I think it might be a good spot to try and grow some mushrooms outdoors. Um, I would love if I could get some morel mushrooms growing back there. They're real popular in this area, and they are very expensive to buy. Um, I got a pound of them for $45, and that was cheap. So, yeah. Allergic to mushrooms. That would break my heart if I was allergic to mushrooms. Tank, that I'm so sorry to hear that because yeah, I love getting out and walking in the woods in the spring and summer. Well, in the fall too. Um, Not so much this time of year. You won't get me out in the woods this time of year, but spring and summer, yep, I love being out there. Allergic to strawberries? Oh no. The only fruit I've ever found that I'm allergic to is mangoes, and I am extremely allergic to them. I um, go into anaphylactic shock when I eat mangoes. So, yeah, needless to say, Margaret doesn't touch mangoes anymore. And I mean, I literally do not touch mangoes. I will buy them for the hubby, but what I do is I will get one of the plastic produce bags and put it on my hand as a glove, reach over, grab the mango, and then pull the bag down over it so that I've got the um, mango bagged without touching it. Oh, wow. That's weird. Yeah, he probably definitely does not need to eat them then, Michael. Um, when I found out that I was allergic to mangoes, I had eaten a mango and I started feeling funny. And my face felt tingly. My hands were getting real itchy, and I'm talking like the palms of my hands. And I started looking, and I had red blotches all over the palms of my hands. Then I started looking at the rest of my skin, and I had the same red blotches all over me. I went in and looked in the mirror. My face started swelling up. Then my throat started swelling closed. So I immediately started hitting the Benadryl, and luckily that got rid of it pretty quickly. But I took a shit ton of Benadryl. Booze does that too? Oh no. Yes, it was a bit scary, Julianne. Um, wasn't one of the more enjoyable experiences of my life, believe me. And yeah, after that, Needless to say, I did not partake of mangoes anymore, which really broke my heart because mangoes are good. I mean, they are such wonderful fruit, but they are not worth getting unalived over. So, oh no, Marianne, that's a bummer. I was wondering if you were up in the main house now that it's so cold. Well, and that's the unfortunate thing about allergies too, Julianne, is they can come on out of the blue. I mean, stuff that you've never been allergic to before, you all of a sudden you can't eat it anymore. Fish, seafood, wool, and molds. Yep. I don't have anaphylactic reactions to mold, but um, it will cause me asthma attacks. I have had that happen. Yeah, I would be hard put to not be able to have fish or shrimp in my diet because I love fish and I love shrimp. If I had to cut those out of my life, I would be very upset. Yeah. Um, Pineapple doesn't make my mouth itch, but it will make my mouth very irritated. Fresh pineapple, canned pineapple, not so much because it's been heat processed and that kills off some of that acidity that bothers my mouth so much. But fresh pineapple will definitely make my mouth hurt. Yeah, it's like when in doubt, leave them both alone, Julianne. Unfortunately, when you have a food allergy, it's not fun to experiment to figure out which one is causing it. I talked to my neighbor yesterday. She is 88 now, I believe. She lives by herself. She lost her husband a couple of years ago now. Um, and she's the sweetest, sweetest lady. Found out that she hasn't been able to get out of her house to go anywhere because her garage door was frozen shut and the back door of her house was frozen shut. So her daughter has been taking care of things and making sure she gets food deliveries and stuff like that. So at least she's not over there starving to death. Although I think she would call me if something like that was going on. Plus, her daughter would never let her starve. I mean, her daughter doesn't live that far from us, so wow. That allergic to tomatoes. That's kind of about how allergic I am to mangoes. Yeah, Tank, we kept some of our water dripping overnight to try and make sure our pipes weren't going to freeze up. And of course, Icy is in the house overnight anyway. I don't let him stay out. When it's this cold, he gets to be out for maybe 15 or 20 minutes, assuming I can get his butt back in the house. Now, sometimes he insists on staying out longer. And unfortunately, I'm not a good enough mama that I'm going to wade through all the snow that's back there to try and grab him and drag him in the house. So I figure he'll figure out eventually that he's cold and want to come in. Well, if you have to eat Benadryl when you can them, Tank, that's a little more than mildly allergic, I would say. Yeah, I know he's built for that cold, Renee, but he is an indoor dog, more or less. I mean, he spends more time in than out in the winter time. Now, in the summertime, I have no problem with him staying outside as long as he wants. But in the spring, in the winter, I'm. Of course, I also have neighbors that are nosy and like to call animal control on you if they think you are leaving your dog outside for too long. When I first got him, um, a neighbor called because he had been outside for an hour when it was snowy, and they didn't think that, he should be out. So by the time animal control actually came and knocked on my door, he was back in the house. But, he came up to the door while I was there talking to him. I said, "He's a husky." And they're like, "Yes, but he's still an indoor dog." It's like, people, really? I don't know which of my neighbors it was that called on me, but they didn't find me or anything. They just kind of gave me a polite warning. So, all right, Michael. Well, thank you for stopping in. I really do appreciate you. Um, I won't be on too much longer anyway. I am going to go get my breakfast too. I haven't had breakfast yet. So I'm going to, once I get off here, I'll figure out something. Oh, happy birthday to Panda. Yes, cook him something really nice, Michael. And pass on all our birthday wishes to him. White people breakfast? Okay, what is white people breakfast? Got to know. Okay, well, now that sounds like a pretty darn good breakfast. I'd eat that. So, yeah, okay. I like white people breakfast too, I guess. Pancakes does sound good, and I may do that when I get off of here. Or French toast. Maybe I'll do French toast because the hubby does not like pancakes. So maybe I'll make French toast instead. Oh, yeah. Well, take it slow, Renee. Don't push yourself too hard. All right. Take care, Michael. Thanks for being here. Give her secret. I would like to try it, but I really don't have the money to try something like that. So I will just have to do it the extremely difficult way, especially at my age. 130. Wow, that's amazing. Of course, men always can lose weight easier than women. His is covered by insurance. Well, that's nice. My cup matches my sweater. Yeah, it does quite well. Lana knew what she was doing when she bought that for me. Well, I don't eat like I used to. My appetite, now that I'm getting older, my appetite is probably about half of what it used to be. Tina, right now, I just have them hanging up back here on my shelf. What I'm thinking I'm going to do is when I get this area cleaned up the way I want to, I'm going to put a chain across that window and hang up just a bunch of them in that window. It'll probably pretty much take up that whole space. Is it just decor? Yeah, just decor. Um, I'm not into the crystal thing. Yeah, I think it would be beautiful, especially since the sun comes through that window. It'll send sparkles all over the house that way. So I think that would be kind of fun, having the sun shine through the prisms on it. You're having pancakes, Tank? Yeah, pancakes does sound good. I will make pancakes for my breakfast sometimes when the hubby is at work. Oh, if I add them to stuff I crochet. Now, I do from time to time add crystals to stuff that I crochet. I have a sweater that I made that I have a lot of Swarovski crystals on it. Um, I also, you know, when the printed t-shirts with the glittery designs were really popular, I would buy those and get the little Swarovski flat back crystals to match them, and I would add Swarovski crystals to my t-shirts. Um, I actually had a beautiful paisley print t-shirt that I put Swarovski crystals all over the front in part of the paisley design, and it really turned out nice. But yeah, I do enjoy adding crystal to clothing for sure. Does it wash okay? Um, for a while now, as they've gotten older, some of the glue has let go. Um, I use the E, what is it? E2000, something like that. Um, and it it holds for quite a while. I mean, my t-shirts, I've got some t-shirts that are probably maybe 8 to 10 years old that I added crystals to that have just started losing the crystals. So um, yeah, so they wash pretty well. E6000. Okay. That's that's what I use. And I get the of course I get the clear one. So that it because they do have the different colored ones, and so I get the clear one and use that. So you guys, it is an hour. I do remember the bedazzlers. Yep, I remember those when I was a kid. They were definitely the thing. I used to do t-shirts. You could get kits where you would do a design in sequins. So you'd like do a dot of glue and you'd use tweezers and place a sequin on each dot of glue, and it would have kind of a color chart for you. I used to do t-shirts with sequins like that. Studs on jeans, yep. I remember doing that too. I never did get a bedazzle machine. I just bedazzled stuff on my own. I had a jean jacket. I got these big metal filigree things. I don't know what you call them, but just they were flat metal filigree in gold and silver. And I would sew those, I'd embroider them onto the back of my jean jacket, and then I would add in um, seed beads and crystals, and I would also use liquid silver. My jacket probably had about $50 worth of liquid silver just on the back of it where I had embroidered with it. So, yeah. So, okay, everybody, I am going to let you all go about your day. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Stay warm, stay safe, enjoy your day, and do what you love and be with the people you love. Have a great day, everybody. See you next week. Bye bye.